Trump has revoked a civil rights rule that prevents workplace discrimination that was enacted by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1965. Quote, it forbade federal contractors from discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity. It granted the Labor Department the power to enforce its provisions. Obviously, some of that has evolved because in 1965 we weren't covering all that stuff. But now this idea of being anti-workplace discrimination is categorized as DEI, and it's gone.
It's gone. And you have to ask yourself, what is the motive? If Republican and Democratic presidents have maintained this, let's remember, affirmative action started under Richard Nixon, a Republican. His Deputy Secretary of Labor, Arthur Fletcher, wrote it. So what is so atrocious to Donald Trump that nobody before him saw? We certainly can't say the data says that the problems of racial discrimination at the workplace is something that warrants us to just go and do something else, that all of that is resolved. So he's playing to a race-based crowd. He's trying to, in many ways, play this us against them, which is why we have said in National Action Network and other groups that we've got to go after the private sector that wants to end DEI and say those that want to take that side, you don't want diversity, inclusion, and equity, then you should have a diverse consumer base. And we're going to, in 90 days, start targeting some of these companies to say, fine, you can go with Trump, but you will not have our consumer dollar. How did Martin Luther King start? He started by boycotting the Montgomery bus boycott. So sometimes when you won't hear our appeal, you will hear our dollars.
And the other side of that,
the other way.
Trump's new DOJ leadership has ordered a pause on any ongoing civil rights litigation. Prosecutors have also been ordered against opening any new cases or agreeing to new settlements. And this any activity that this DOJ Civil Rights Division is undertaking. Trump's DOJ also ordered a halt on activity involving so-called consent decrees, which are agreements between the federal government and local governments to address discriminatory police practices, which could affect reforms and probes that were launched after the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Tyree Nichols. It investigated cases like the Mississippi burning murders and the church bombing that killed 4 little girls in Birmingham, Alabama. It was a DOJ lawyer who faced down George Wallace in the schoolhouse door, and it was another DOJ lawyer who escorted James Meredith to integrate Ole Miss. In fact, in 1963, Dorr put himself directly in harm's way between armed police and civil rights protesters in Jackson, Mississippi. He shouted, quote, "I'm from the Justice Department, and anyone here knows what I stand for is right." End quote. There are a lot of people who don't really know the work of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. It's the net effect it's going to have on people.
The net effect is that there will not be a department armed with federal law to protect citizens against hate crime against women, against crime against LGBTQ. The human rights of all of our citizens were protected by this division, the Civil Rights Division. And let's remember, when you mentioned George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and you could have mentioned Ahmaud Arbery, all of that happened while President Trump was president, and he did nothing. But the Civil Rights Division under Biden came in and prosecuted the police in George Floyd, even though they had faced state charges and state convictions, and in Ahmaud Arbery. And they had consent decrees with those police departments. With all of that removed, Trump is now trying to have a society where there would be no redress for the George Floyds, no redress for the Minneapolis Police Department, as well as the departments that they put under decree under the Biden administration. So it is to really undo. He's already tried to undo with dealing with the question of suspending DEI. Now we're dealing with him disarming us from even having the law properly investigate civil rights crimes.
So one of the reasons that the Civil Rights Division stepped in the cases that you mentioned is that states sometimes don't have the power. Crime doesn't meet some sort of state standard. And what the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice says is that this crime or this alleged activity violated someone's civil rights, and they go in with federal protection. So
it's not only the law, the feds have the resources that some of the states don't have. And it's different federal law. He had the first hate crime summit in the White House with Joe Biden as president, Kamala Harris as vice president, with Jonathan Greenblatt of the American Anti-Defamation League and Mark Morial and myself sharing it. So he'll send a signal. In 3 days, I'm suspending DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm going to shut down the Civil Rights Division.
Saying we're going to we've examined your police department or your city. You have a pervasive pattern of discriminatory or bad behavior, and we're going to monitor you and check in on you until you improve. Donald Trump is saying that goes away.